My biggest rival? It's gotta be someone from Beastcoast. Probably Surf. I have to put Surf down. I have to.
Our biggest rival would probably just be OXG because they have our former player, Sweater.
Obviously, he's going to come in wanting to beat us a lot, and we're going to come in wanting to beat them. I think it's going to be a really good game.
The process from like me leaving Beastcoast to Oxygen was more of like, I didn't really feel comfortable anymore like on the team. It was more of like a business decision because like I really, want to win.
I'm just going to say this, I'm happy Sweater finally got freed from playing the best op in the game every round, so hopefully he's enjoying his new freedom over there.
I'm excited to see the way Sweater plays on his new team with his new roles. From him being our main Finka player stage 1, stage 2. I'm waiting to see what he does stage 3 when he's not on Finka.
I become like a super flexible player over the time. I kind of strayed towards that towards the end of like Beast Coast because that's what I wanted to do instead of the whole Finka main thing. Kind of wasn't my thing, but someone had to do it. But I prefer like, the flex role, like sledge buck, all that.
And the idea was that the flank watch role, or the traditional flank watch role, it's transitioned into a more flexible role, a more floating role where flank watch is kind of a rotating door of players. A player like Sweater would allow us to have more doors and availabilities in what we could do going forward.
But now that we have Sweater, we can actually like push together, pinch together, like everything like that.
With me being able to like play flex now fully, you can do so many more different like pushes. Now that I'm there, I can help these people like push out the other people. I think with me and the place of Lax, they'll actually have a real like team player to like give them the extra step.
They're a team who thinks very highly of themselves, so they're always going to come in, I was going to say a little egotistical, but I think there's going to be a lot of back and forth.
We just got to get into Sweater's head. I know it's pretty easy to get into his head, so try to come up with something leading up to the game.
We're just going to try a bunch of new stuff and just try to get Sweater comfortable, all of us comfortable. Should be better than we are. It's only up from here, so.
We definitely know it's going to be a tough game. It was a tough game stage 1, stage 2 when he wasn't on the team. We just need to go into the game with the same amount of energy we have for every other game. Hopefully we come out on top.
Welcome back. Wow, a lot to unpack there, isn't there? I mean, first of all, obviously we have these two teams coming in, Beastcoast, Oxygen, both winless in stage 3, and you got the added factor of Sweater, of course, going from Beastcoast to Oxygen between stage 2 and stage 3, and then Jesse, all the talk about what Sweater's gonna bring to Oxygen, the opinions that we got from the players before the stage began. Interesting how things worked out, huh?
Sweater's become such a more flexible player. He's going to play all these different operators, except, ooh, that didn't work for the first 2 weeks. So yesterday they were like, never mind, you're back on Zofia, you're back on permanent entry, you're not flexing anymore. Pretty amazing, the change-ups that we've seen from Oxygen, but I do like it. Regardless of what their mindset was to start the stage, things clearly haven't been going well for Oxygen, so they're trying things. Yeah. Last time we saw Oxygen play, just yesterday, Sweater was on Zofia the whole time, played one low round on Sledge, and that let Vertical get a little bit more flexible in his plays. Vertical was taking some of those ops like Dokkaebi, like Lion, like Zero to be able to kind of hold down that flank watch a little bit better. So, despite what you may have just heard in the video, we are seeing Oxygen move away from that mentality of how Sweater should play on the team, and I think it worked a little bit better yesterday than what we've seen from Oxygen previously.
Foxegg called this a mid-off on Twitter, and he's not kidding. Exact same record, basically the same ranking. It's the worst attacking team against the worst defending team, and OXG's defensive rank is not that far behind. So in spite of OXG having 2 wins so far over Beastcoast this year, it's not about to be the same level of stakes. It's not the same pressure. It's way different for a Beastcoast team that just had a new player finally come into the limelight yesterday and didn't do that well against a team that's looking to use their old teammate against them today, and that hasn't been working that well.
It's been bizarre on the stage for both of these teams. Let's zero in on Oxygen a little bit and talk about them specifically. I mean, so much has been said about this already. Sweater, obviously a talented individual player, coming together with Newers, another very talented gunner. Oxygen obviously had a lot of confidence coming into the stage. I certainly got that impression when I talked to them in Vegas before the stage began, but the results have not followed through. They have struggled without laxing in their corner like they had before.
It's interesting they opted to pick up Sweater because Oxygen, throughout every engagement they've ever had with Sweater, they've beaten him, and they've beaten him pretty solidly. 7-5 in stage 2, 7-2 in stage 1. OXG undefeated against Beastcoast in regular competition, a 5-game win streak. They're gonna need some of that magic to bounce them back here out of their 5-game losing streak when you consider all matches, not just against this opponent. And so when we talk about this team and kind of the journey they've been on, I think, you know, we're looking forward to making some more of those changes on attack, right? Well, one thing that we've kind of established is that the major hopes are pretty much out the window, but if they can make changes now, they are set to go to the 6 Invitational. So once we kind of see OXG there, that's where we want to see maybe some role changes coming through, some playstyle changes coming through, and this is the time to test that.
When Beastcoast added 4 new players to this team at their team at the end, the beginning of this year, when they made those changes, they built around Sweater because that's somebody you need to be building around. If he has effective communication, if he's getting all those frags, that's somebody you have to make a cornerstone, a pillar of your squad. Now he's being brought into a system where he's not that. It's been built already and he's coming in to supplement someone else's activity. And I think it was a good thing when we saw yesterday when he wasn't playing on the role that he was specifically brought in to fill a hole on, and they're trying to utilize his skill a little bit better. If you ask the question, is Sweater a good fit for OXG, and you just look at his stats and you don't look exactly at what he's playing, it's incredibly mid. 44 and 46, 5 and 8 on entry thus far, mostly playing Nomad on attack, which means you need to make some kind of switch if you want to utilize him to the fullest extent possible. If he's a fragger, let him frag. Don't pull a Cryin on G2 where you put the wrong guy on the wrong roles in spite of knowing the skill that he has. You have to let him off the leash, and OXG need to understand you're not going to make the major at this rate, so you might as well experiment.
Yeah, I think you said it perfectly. OXG's not making the major. They've hit the point where all teams that lose, it's almost like an effort where they just, all right, we're just gonna do whatever. We're gonna play ranked, we're gonna try stuff, we're gonna play different operators, people are gonna play different roles. And if you lose, oh well, like it's just another loss. But if you win, okay, now we have somewhere to build off of. And for a team like OXG, stage 3, not important for them. S-High is gonna be the thing that they're building towards. So if they can find their footing towards the end of the stage here to build, I think they're fine.
And we've talked a little bit about the role changes that we've seen experimented already with Oxygen. We've got a graphic as well. The 2 players that kind of did a little bit of a role swap in yesterday's matchup, Sweater and Vertical. The thing is, the attacks still weren't all there. Maybe it'll take some time for this kind of composition of Oxygen to really show its strengths, but they still lost 4 rounds attacking on Chalet. Not what you want on an attacker-sided map. Felt like a lot of time they really didn't have that initiative going. They were standing outside of windows, waiting for a double C4 to come out at them, waiting for Merc to jump out a window for them, waiting for somebody else to swing them. So I want to see maybe a little bit more action coming out of Sweater. Maybe he kind of forgot that he's not on flank watch anymore. He needs to get into the building, get into those gunfights a little bit faster. But of course, it's going to take time with him readjusting to a new role.
And we keep on having the questions on attack, specifically on defense. It's still kind of the same thing. On attack, it's right now they're 15 points below the average when it comes to how everyone else in the league is doing. On defense, it's still 10 points below. So even if you might think that the rank about exactly where they're at, 9th or 10th, maybe there's a couple of other teams in contention. When you think about exactly how bad it is comparative to the rest of the teams in the league combined, it's still not great. So they have to pick it up on both ends.
Yeah, true enough. And it's interesting to see as we shift over to talk about Beastcoast a little bit, just how much those Beastcoast players had to say about how they thought Sweaters and Newers were going to get a little bit exposed by the changes, right? Not being able to crouch on Finka as much anymore. But let's shift and talk about Beastcoast a little bit. The big story here is that Ferda, as of yesterday, has been able to play for the team. We saw him first time out in their match against Sonics. It didn't go great. He was 1-10 on his first round here in the NAL. But hey, I mean, you're rookie. You're going to have a rough start once in a while. A rough day doesn't mean a rough week. We'll see what Ferda can put together today.
Yeah, I mean, both of these teams are in points where single games aren't important to them. If they lose, like Ferda has one bad game, it's not the end of the world. It's not like it's making the major or not making the major for them. So I think just getting Ferda comfortable with the team, to like OXG, get the stepping stones, like get to a position where you're like, okay, we have a platform to build off of and start our team to make these majors, not to win them, but to make these majors again. And I think OXG's there, and Beastcoast is on the way soon.
It feels very strange for Beastcoast. It feels like we're back in week 1 as opposed to week 3 because we're adding another component into this team. We already understood where Mark's skill level was through 4 games, and now we have to throw that out the window because it's a non-factor anymore. Now that Ferda's in spite of having a really off performance in his first game, there were still some good redeeming qualities about it. He was playing Lion. I feel like he was doing his job. It's not all about kills, especially on that first half where we were concerned he wasn't going to do anything after not finishing with a kill in the first half. Not the end of the world considering it's just his first game. game, but it still feels like we're now in a discovery phase where Beastcoast are not going to be identifiable by what happens if they only have 4 players operating at peak efficiency. They need all 5 players to do it. And before yesterday, the argument could be made that maybe they had 3 guys doing exactly what they were supposed to be doing, maybe 2, because not everyone has been performing in their role as much as they have needed to in order to find success in a league this tight.
Penguin, do you believe in miracles?
Yeah, I mean, my CL team went through a miracle in itself, so I would say so.
Okay, well then I would advise you to stop talking about teams like they don't have chances for majors, because technically both of these teams still have a chance, but they might not for long. Either of these squads, if they lose in regulation, that will be mathematically eliminated from Stage 3 major contention. So, whilst it is unlikely, and you're right that these teams probably will both not make the major, it is technically possible for the winner of this game to go on and make it to the major, but they will really need to improve on a lot of different fronts to make that happen.
And it's not overtime game, regulation specifically?
Yeah. Regulation loss specifically, if it's an overtime loss, they may be eliminated later today.
Cool.
Well, we're going to find out what map it's going to be on as far as who the ray of hope will shine upon at the end of this next match. Not going to be Cafe, not going to be Bank. Where are we going to go?
Yeah, Bank was played back-to-back in Stage 2 for the team of Oxygen. Didn't go amazingly. Beastcoast also aren't that good with it, so they're not too devastated. Chalet out in the next kind of set of maps, a map that Beastcoast lost also back-to-back to open Stage 3, winning just 3 rounds across those 2 matches. And then Theme and Skyscraper Theme Park, a newly dangerous map for Oxygen. They used to be so good at it, but dropped it back-to-back versus Mirage and X at this stage means that it's one that they're probably happy their opponents banned for them.
The thing about this is for Beastcoast, because their map pool hasn't really been that stringent, now they have a couple of options for what they can do that's like a bit of a comfort pick. There's Clubhouse that they haven't played nearly that often, but they do still have the possibility of playing Villa instead, but it's down to what they choose to ban. Honestly, you probably want to take Club off the board because it's not something that you've played more than really one time this year. So OXG's choice between Oregon or Villa. Do you take Beastcoast back to the map that they just lost in weird fashion yesterday, or do you try something different and maybe give Beastcoast a chance on a map they've played even more? Ooh. Instead, it's Oregon, which for both teams this whole year is 50-50. It's very strange. For Beastcoast, including the loss from yesterday, they are 2-2 on the year, only 53% on attack, 42% on defense. And for OXG, similar story, 3-3, still 50%, but 2 of them were overtime wins, and they haven't been able to do anything on that map for quite some time. First time they're going to be playing it in this stage, but the last 2 times when they played it in Berlin, they had 1 OT win, and then before then, it was a loss in regulation. Foxay, again, called it a mid-off. This was probably the most mid-map we could have seen both of these teams play, given what their collective records have been on it over the past year.
I like it, though, because that makes predictions all the more exciting, which is where we have to go to now. And first of all, of course, we have to talk to our casters. We'll send it over to Blue and Stokes to get their opinions on who they think is going to get the first win of the season for their respective teams in the NAL in Stage 3. Go Packers. Stokes, Blue, what do you got to say?
Well, first of all, I don't like you for that comment because you know I'm a Chicago Bears fan, and you still had to say it, don't make me go over especially there. After what you did to us last week. Like, that's not even, it's not even nice, man.
It was so
that's
easy.
Not even nice. But I will say this. In between the battle of wind and water, I'm going to have to go with wind here. I think Oxygen's got it up against Beast Coast. Beast Coast just not looking very good, and I mean, they really haven't showed us anything to really consider them to be getting better. Ferda had a terrible game, 1-10. Anthony's still not looking that hot. I got to take OXG here.
It's going to be similar thoughts for me. I think we saw a start of a nice rebound from Oxygen yesterday. I think there's still definitely things being worked on, but they should have enough strength, specifically considering we're going to Oregon as well, which is a map that most of North America should be very familiar playing on, even with new players on the roster. I feel like Oxygen's still going to be able to take control of this one at the end of the day.
John, what's your NFL team?
I don't have one. I don't really watch football, I'm going to be honest with you.
Oh,
there you go.
Wrong answer, man.
Well, we're all esports fans at least. We got that in common. I agree with the Oxygen picks. We'll check back in with our casters in just a moment, but it makes sense, right? That Oxygen coming into this one looking a little bit stronger. Beast Coast has the added thing of working another new player in on stage. Different from Scrims. Anyone willing to pick the Beast Coast?
I will say Beast Coast's glimmer of hope is that they got 3 attack rounds yesterday. And that's the good thing. The bad thing is they didn't win any defenses on Oregon.
Yeah,
so I'm going to go with OXG, but if Beast Coast can figure out their defenses, I think they'll take this game.
Wow.
I just asked the question, if you look at the individuals on that team as opposed to the team, both teams are having struggles with coordination, figuring out exactly where they want to put who. So if you strip that away and you just look at the players for who they are, who is better pound for pound at their peak or otherwise, the answer keeps on falling on OXG. Beastcoast still has some inexperience, and even when they try to figure some things out, I still have a lot of questions. So this needs to be an OXG game, but I do kind of like the idea of Sweater switching teams and then getting gatekept from the major by his old squad. I like the story. I just don't think it's going to happen.
You know, though, things move a little slower out in Nova Scotia. And so for Ferda to only really be confirmed to be playing in that game about 10 minutes before it started yesterday, I think maybe he just didn't get to him in time. I think they still use telegrams out there in the East. So maybe now that he's actually kind of warmed up to the idea of playing on Beastcoast, I think we're going to see a bit of a different game from him. So I'm going to put my faith in Beastcoast one more time. I'm going Ferda boys, Beastcoast over Oxygen.
What do you have against the Maritimes, dude?
He actually
I love the Maritimes.
Crazy man. All right.
Well,
I genuinely do.
Apparently not.
I don't know Canada very well. Even though I live close to it. Never went there. Never been to Canada. Maybe someday.
Wow.
Oxygen heads. Beastcoast tails. We'll flip the coin. Oh, it's heads. The coin says that it will be Oxygen. There you go. All right.
Twitter could go either way on this.
Twitter could go either way. Popular players on both of these squads. Obviously, there's a lot of talent on both these squads, but it will go Oxygen's way. Didn't hear the percentage, but either way, I'm sure it was a bit 69% Oxygen.
Nice.
There you go. And such it is. We'll see if Beastcoast ends up taking it. I think it could go either way. Either way, it's going to be exciting. Community poll that you have to think about is who's staying on the bottom of the leaderboard today, Oxygen or Beastcoast? Well, I guess we kind of just answered that as far as what we think.
It's the opposite of a who's winning question. So we had the main Twitter poll and then this one.
Yeah.
There you go. We like to shake things up a bit. Well, that's going to be it for us here. We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we will see who gets the first win for their team in Stage 3. Will it be Oxygen? Will it be Beastcoast? We'll find out in just a moment.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back once again to the NAL. It is time to get ready for our third match of the day. Bound to be an interesting one. Obviously not a whole lot of major playoff contention coming into this matchup, but we still need to check in with the teams and see how they're doing. It's going to be Oxygen up against Beastcoast here, trying to best each other. And Stokes, how's this one going to play out in your mind?
You know, I think it could be a pretty close ball game depending on how Oxygen's going to play. I think that Oxygen has a much higher skill ceiling for themselves in comparison to Beastcoast, so I definitely think that we'll more than likely see Oxygen take this one, but that doesn't mean that Beastcoast can't have worked on things that have been recently going on. Obviously, across the board, the team hasn't been looking too hot. Surface currently their top-end player with simply a 1.02 in the rating category. The very next player, a 0.83 on SlashUg. So you can see that Stage 3 has definitely not been Beastcoast's, but they're looking to switch things up here on a map that we haven't had a lot in Stage 3, Oregon. and one that we've, well, in recent history, at least for this year, had a pretty big back and forth on for both of these respective squads, so should make for an interesting affair.
All right, well, let's get into it, ladies and gentlemen. It's going to be on Oregon, a map that, at least for the two of us, we haven't been seen played here in the NAL all that much so far in Stage 3, so it'll be fun to dive back into it for the two of us and see exactly how this plays out. Not going to be the first ban, still seeing a lot of use for her to try to sneak in through areas like a small tower and whatnot, so she's going to be first on the chopping block for Beastcoast. Oxygen, of course, have their attacking operator to take out as well. They're going to follow through with the Ying ban that we've been seeing pretty often on this map.
Yeah, smart bans across the board. The Noct just very annoying. She has all the secondary utility you could ever really need with frag grenades or hard breach or EMPs or what have you. She has access to all of it. She can also sneak inside unbeknownst to the defense past cameras and everything else in between and deal some serious damage to your defensive setup or some of your roam games. So good thing to have her off the board. The rest of this making a whole heck of a lot of sense when it comes to Oregon. Ying, great for execution. Valkyrie, great for the info game. And then Azami, fantastic for your site setup or trying to assist with some other angles that she can build up for some of your roaming units. So we'll jump in here with Auction being on offense and Beastcoast being on defense. And wouldn't you know it, it's going to be a laundry supply room initially.
All right, so no surprises there in the initial site choice coming in from BC. Operator selection also lines pretty well with what we've tended to see here. There's going to be a little curve on the Tachanka pick, but again, considering the site, this is something we've seen plenty of times before. The double delay composition coming out for both Anthony and Slash combined, of course, with the Tachanka and the smoke there, just to try and bleed out as much time as possible. It's more than likely Oxygen will use the first 2 minutes to try and clear out a specific route on the first and second floors, and only then will they worry about the basement. Beastcoast's hope here is that they can use that utility to bleed out that remaining minutes when Oxygen finally focus on the descent into the actual basement here.
Yeah, a strategy that was TM'd by TSM a handful of stages ago. I actually believe it's all the way back to last year now, like the middle of 2021, where we started using, or seeing them use this setup quite often with the Tachanka worried about Freezer, Smoke being able to use those toxic babes in between construction as well as laundry, whatever the situation calls for. So Auction will have to try and work through that, but it shouldn't be too big of a deal. They're going to end up bringing in Habana for the hard breach here. She's going to be the lone soul in that category, so they'll have to be worried about keeping Dream alive, but that shouldn't be too hard, especially with Vertical along for the ride. Those EE1Ds will back up Newer's info game on his Gemini clone, so should be pretty easy pickings when it comes to this clear.
Beastcoast quite mobile here in the opening few seconds, and more than likely going to see that peeled back quite a bit now due to Fox opening things up here on the second floor. No spots for him as of yet, but of course he has Overwatch over the Freezer stairs now, so anybody from Beastcoast that did end up staying out and about after that slam from the hammer is potentially going to be exposed to that. However, it looks like everybody has fallen either away from that part of the map or down into the depths before he made that final slam to open things up towards the stairwell. Oh, what a catch by Surf, though. His stalwart position here on the back tower stairs is going to finally be able to catch Foxe as he tries to rotate over towards the window, and unfortunately he gets caught. I believe it's going to be through the wood paneling as well, Indeed. So nicely shot from Surf right there.
Yeah, just a little random wall bang catches Foxe. He's at least going to be able to assist Beastcoast with their clear on that top floor. Has a lot of angles open for the stairwells and everything else in between, so Auction now have control of the mid floor. Just need to get Dream in and start working on these hatches so they can actually start getting towards an execution. That's the thing about Oregon. This initial clear just takes so very long. It's going to allow Beastcoast to skimper off back to site, and they should just await the arrival of Oxygen. If they try and play up these stairwells, John, they're just going to die for really no reason at all. So why not wait for your opponent to actually have to push into your setup and use this utility to try and circumvent that?
Yep, so we can see Beastcoast given the amount of respect they feel is necessary here, and I would generally tend to agree. All 5 players now back and comfortably seated in the depths of the site, waiting for Oxygen to call for their initial execute here. Now keep in mind, no Ying, no real storming execute utility to come out. We are going to have the EE1D from Vertical, of course, when they drop in. And speaking of which, there it is, and it aligns pretty well with an opening kill from Vertical as well. Ferda will be able to trade that back now as he still holds control over the main hallway. He's going to be the big player here, keeping all the members of Auction on the extremities out of the fight for as long as possible. And of course, hopefully holding and preserving a little bit more of that delay utility. As you can see, quite a bit of it already used. Slash nearly taken down there, in fact, as he now throws out his last Toxic Babe. The Magnet gonna eat up one of those nades. Gotta be careful there. Dream, as he nearly steps into it, goes down to about 20 HP as a result of that, and now Oxygen stunted here, trying to figure out how to move forward. Only 3 of the Incendiaries left onto Anthony, and of course, Slash has now bled out all the Toxic Babes, so the delay it's going to be limited at this point, but Anthony, if he can time the final 3 charges here, he can still use them quite effectively. But Dream, regardless, has found positioning to go for a plant. Anthony tries to creep back out here. That will scare Dream off of the plant, so he'll have to go for it for a second time now. But Newers, of course, will get the kill. Where's the rest of the peak from Beastcoast? Haven't seen it yet as Newers shuts down 2 more here for a triple kill on the round, leaving it all down to Zeno in the 1v3.
Patience for Oxygen. Newers stalwart here on pillar. He'll take down the last member of Beastcoast, giving Oxygen the very first round. And pretty easy round overall for OXG. Yes, they end up losing Foxe on that top floor clear, but Beastcoast still have to respect the pressure that Oxygen have on the mid floor. They'll go back downstairs, and this gives Oxygen a really big opening to work their way in through E-Box. Now, I will point out a couple of different things. Number one, Oxygen's clear of that wasn't exactly clean. They had a couple of issues, especially with some of the magnets being around there that dealt some serious damage to Dream. So there was a lot of different ways that Beastcoast could have worked their way back into that round, especially given the circumstance of Dream's HP. The big thing there for Beastcoast that I didn't like was the pick from the Tachanka. We still have 3 fire grenades. Why are we not using these fire grenades? Just silly at the end of the day. We shouldn't be going for that when we know that you can just bounce those off the ceiling and prevent the plant that way.
So Beastcoast, with a potential few blunders towards the end of it when the situation got tense, cost them their first round. Oxygen now in pole position here as they start things off 1-0. Looking to continue that conquest here on the upstairs hold from Beastcoast as well. Obvious changes are going to come into the operator lineups on both ends of the spectrum here. The second floor and basement sites are very different from each other, as you can see. Still going to be a pretty good emphasis on the delay comp coming out here from Beastcoast between Surf as well as Anthony now on the smoke. Slash in the meanwhile has moved over to the Aruni as he's going to be on team utility mitigation now. And that's actually the only bit of that they'll have in this round here. No Jaeger or Romai to accompany that, so they feel the laser gates are going to be competent enough to eat up the nades from Oxygen.
Oxygen, quite a few of those. There's only a maximum of 6 frag grenades available on the offensive side. Now it's on Slash, Yana, and you guessed it, Nook. And she'll will be obviously banned out, so won't have access to those, but still will to Yana and Sledge. That will be inside of the Oxygen arsenal. So Vertical still have those secondary EMPs, and they'll be back in this with double hard breach this time around. This is going to make it to where Dream's a little more free to swing things if it does actually end up working its way into a situation like that. It's always a beautiful thing when you can try and allocate some secondary hard breach or just bring some extra that loosens the chains on some of your other members inside of your lineup. So here for Beastcoast, they're still trying to stand tall, dealing with this initial info clear from Oxygen. Got a setup here inside of Trophy to bear down onto Master. But speaking of bearing down, Newers, he's already got a position here in Split. He'll be able to hold Z, but Surf, my God, what is up with these wall bangs today? He pre-fires through the wall, takes him down inside of Split. I don't know if they had some info game there or what.
Even yours is like, what?
Newers, you and I are in the same boat, bro. Let me tell you, Foxy is going to be able to take down Slash, and Zeno, he's going to be taking some serious damage here, so he'll swing for the hills. Right outside of the master balcony.
You have to wonder how he's lining these up as well. The first one, you could more than likely reckon it's off of an audio cue from the barricade being broken, but this one as well, I don't know if there was any prompt for it, so you got to wonder how exactly is he figuring this out, because we don't have a Valkyrie on the defense either to potentially be giving out cam info, and I don't even think that spot was near a default. Nicely traded out here, though, by Oxygen. They are able to get back their control, of course, by taking down both Ferda and Slash. Zeno now down to a very low point as well, so it seems like, despite these surprise frags coming in here from Surf, Oxygen are still able to control most of the situation so far.
Yeah, Oxygen's pretty worried. Surf is still alive, and he's clearly hacking, so gonna have some big issues with that on the entry. Vertical works his way in through attic. Has to worry about the smoke, though. Anthony has 0 toxic babes, and he might not have a head here in a second if he keeps doing this. He's just walking around the site aimlessly, and he's dead. It's actually Zeno to go down instead. Apologies on that. Surf will take down Sweater at the bottom of the white stairs. Anthony fires back. Oxygen been boxed out. Stun grenades in, but no one allowed to push forward just yet until Dream finds the gap here in the master wall. He'll start the plant here for games. Foxy takes down Anthony. It's up to Surf. Can't get the big kill just yet. Might try and go through the fire and flames.
Oh, we got him.
One, but luckily Foxy shuts him down, and Oxygen will get their second round.
Surf just giving us all kinds of spicy frags today. Nicely done from him, of course.
He literally said in chat, not gonna lie, I'm cheating.
All right. Yeah, Nerd has been like, nah, that was crazy. So,
Larch is going to walk over to him and be like, yeah, ha, 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 show me your moss.
Let's take a 10-minute pause here, folks.
Guys, we're going to have a tech delay right after this. I can't tell you why. But no, so far, some crazy shots coming out from Surf. Insane prediction, I gotta say. Just knowing some positions and, you know, where a lot of these soft panels line up throughout the building. Now, if you kind of want a cheat code on this kind of stuff, if you can kind of look at the maps of Siege without the walls in play, right, and you know those lines of sight through the walls, that's where big plays like that can happen. You know, there's plenty of times throughout history where we've had people just randomly die through floors, through walls, or whatever else. And really, that's the beauty of Siege, because it's not just knowing the map with the walls up, is it?
Nope, no, it's not. So some nice play showing up here from Surf, definitely running his scrims on this map, and a little bit of extra pieces of training as well.
Those T-hunts are really paying off.
Yeah, the T-hunts, there you go. It's been working out quite well here. Interesting piece of delay from Beastcoast. They're actually going to throw into the Goyo canisters on the small tower barricade there, so that'll hopefully just bleed out like 20 seconds for them, or at minimum force them to wrap around in towards the kitchen, where they do actually have some players positioned that are going to try to extend their game a little bit more here, so this could be a little bit of a bait and switch attempt from Beastcoast, and it might work pretty well. We'll have to see, though. The early game has had some decent results, mainly off of the back of Surf from Beastcoast, but they've really been struggling when it comes to the actual in-sight fights off of those harsher angles. Oxygen has really taken over the round from that point forward, so it's there where we need to see changes from Beastcoast. We're not too worried about this early round right now.
Yeah, Oxygen have been very, very good at committing to the clear and making it hard for Beastcoast to try and fight back in some of the longer angles, like you're saying. The good news is that they've brought some weapons that can contest at longer ranges now. They've got the Roni for Xeno. They also have the MX4 Storm, and both of these pretty decent options if you're looking for it. Obviously, the Roni not having nearly as many bullets as it once did, but still that 1.5, so you can try and swing for the hills if you so choose. Surf has access to one as well, but instead he's got the Hollow, the Vector. Just an amazing weapon with just how fast the rate of fire is, and you're about to see it here. Just look how quickly you can decimate somebody. He breathes on the shoulder of Foxe, and he is dead to the world. Tries to slinker on back. What a kill from Vertical. Nobody knowing that he's inside of White. He's unbeknownst. He'll be able to get the kill because of it.
Sweater also successfully able to trade out onto Surf upstairs as well, so his threat from the second floor now gone. Once again, very similar situation to what we've seen play out in the past two rounds, where it's Oxygen getting the majority of the opening kills for themselves, but Beastcoast getting the actual first kill, just unable to keep that player advantage stable, unfortunately. And this time ending up in a bit of a worse situation, too, because they lose two of those players upstairs, not on the initial entry, like we saw back in round number 1. So Oxygen, still a few things to take care of, as you can see. They're not fully satisfied with their clear as of yet. They are still trying to make sure they've fully cleared out the back stairwell, so they've kept eyes on that one. I believe they have full committed to this now. Xeno is going to back up.
What? I just noticed this. Beastcoast still has 4 reinforcements in their pocket, and some of these hatches aren't reinforced as well. So, question mark? I don't know. Mark, somebody's got to be running some laps around Villa for this or something. I don't know really what to tell you, but that's just.
I guess like the hatches to an extent make sense because it was clear.
How does it make sense?
Well,
though?
they kind of wanted to use it as a rotate, as you could see there, for at least the meeting room hatch. It looked like they wanted to use it as a rotate for someone, but. Yeah, I don't know. We'll have to see how it plays out here in the late round. Once again, the execute's beginning and goes directly into Oxygen's hands. Another kill for Sweater to open things up as he takes down Xeno. Rest of the defense, unfortunately, not looking like it's ready for the fight here as well. Ferda goes down. Good trade from Anthony to at least hold on to the freezer control, but of course, now alone in a 1v3. Takes out that drone, but the drone's a perfect bait for Norris to swing and finish off the round for Oxygen.
All right, so my gripe with it is the fact that they only have technically one character in that entire lineup that can actually destroy that hatch, and it happens to be Alibi, which we really didn't see around the top floor near that area at all. The other two people being the shotgun wielders that they could technically, I guess, just pop it from down low, but it's still just super awkward that you have 4 reinforcements.
Yeah.
If it was 1, John, then I'm like, oh, okay,
it's whatever. It's
but
40%.
It's 4 reinforcements. That's nearly half of your reinforcements for the round, and you didn't utilize them. That just feels very awkward because that's lines of sight that you could just make really difficult for Oxygen to try and use. There's a bunch of different options when you have that amount of utility still left in your pocket. So definitely interested to see what Beastcoast's thoughts were with that defensive round, but either way, it's going to be a TT for them.
Yep, going to be a quick timeout coming in for Beastcoast now. Potentially part of that being the discussion here, is Mark is obviously going to be able to chime in now. For those who are unaware with Siege's rules, coaches are muted during general gameplay, so this is their only opportunity to give input in the game. And of course, if their opponents call for a timeout, they can also do it there as well. So Mark, you can hear, definitely giving his input on this one. and looking to see what Beastcoast can correct. So we still have 3 more rounds to play out in this half, of course. Just interrupting them about a quarter of the way through the game here to see if they can at least try to tie things up at 3-3 on the second go-around.
And Beastcoast are going to throw it back towards the sky and see if they can get one over on Oxygen finally, who have had a pretty swimming offensive half thus far. Been pretty easy pickings, especially on the initial members of Beastcoast, minus Surf. Surf has been having a heck of a game, especially with some of the pre-fires we've been seeing out of him. But past that, it's been a ghost town. Beastcoast not really able to do much with the rest of the lineup. Yes, Anthony's gotten some kills, but most of those just exit frags, not really meaning much to the overall story.
So, setup complete once again, and we are going to see a much greater emphasis on the first floor hold as well. You can see rotates being opened up as well for Xeno and at least one other player to continue moving downstairs between there, the cafeteria, as well as the showers room. Definitely looking to extend that play out once more. Rely a little bit more heavily on the early game where they've had a better capability to catch Oxygen off guard and more importantly find kills that actually aren't traded back against them, unlike what we've been seeing in the actual sites. So, doubling down on this one. It's going to be an interesting strategy for Beastcoast. Let's see how it plays out now as, of course, Oxygen already on the board and beginning their clear. Looks like they're mainly moving in from, I would have to think it's Big Tower at the moment, just based on the fact that we don't see them down here. And yeah, there we go. Now we can see, as they do need to go for a little bit of clear over here.
And we just had our last reinforcement use from Beastcoast, so just to go back to the other thing really quickly, I definitely think that last round had some pretty big issues going on.
Things going on there.
Yeah, definitely something that Beastcoast is going to be like, Ferda, did you know where to put your reinforcements? Or like just something, it's going to be something like that. It always is. So it is what it is, though. That happens all the time in Siege, ladies and gentlemen, so don't give them too much crap about it. I already did enough. So Oxygen's going to be pushing themselves towards the building now, just trying to wrap themselves around some of these different avenues that they can try and use. Specifically here for Trophy, they've got a good bead on the deployable shield setup they have going on. It's going to be the secondary hard breach out of Sweater yet again for the attic hatch. Foxy is going to play patiently here, as he knows he just needs to hold things down on the top of main and make it really annoying to try and swing around this area for Surf. And obviously with that threat being there, he always has to worry about somebody hopping in that window and immediately killing him when he takes a fight for Master.
Nitro out there from Surf, but it is immediately shot away. Not able to effectively impact here. He can tell the crunch is coming towards him, though, so he's going to impact out the first of his Goyo canisters to delay any potential push from the inside of the master bedroom itself. Threat is going to start to work its way in from Arsenal side, too. You can see Foxay's already opened this up. Drone presence will have already noticed the position from Surf deeper into Trophy. So I believe that has led to Surf giving up that position here. Oh, maybe not just yet. We still can see that little silhouette sitting above Sweater as he tries to clear things out towards Classroom. So it seems like Beastcoast do want to try and hold this a little bit longer into the depths of games now, of course, is where we've had to see that player rotate towards.
Well, Xeno is going to be on the opposite end of this, so he'll be forced back towards the top of white as soon as the master wall explodes. Has some assistance from Ferda on white stairs, so he can just occupy the top of this space as of now. Frag grenades in. Foxay approach the smoke, but won't take any damage from it. Oxygen have done a pretty good job of slowly walking Beastcoast back to the site with simply pressure. There really hasn't been too much past that where they've actually gotten into a gunfight or anything. Simply Oxygen existing in key parts of the map has made it to where Beastcoast aren't as confident in their setup. Until now is when they spring into action. Sweater will falter. BC still having control over white, and Oxygen in desperate need of a place to plant.
BC doing a much better job as well of avoiding the open fights that they've been getting into in Oxygen towards the site for the past 3 rounds that normally they've ended up on the losing side of. So really good stuff here from Beastcoast. Not the most interesting play to see, but it's working, as you can tell. Foxay just now getting the first kill for his squad. Slash able to move in here, secure another down against Oxygen. At the moment, just Newer is up and alive, and he's got no time left to play this one out. He's able to get that down, but he can't find the positions of either Anthony or Slash, so Beastcoast win it on the timer and finally get on the board.
I love that Newer is just at the end of that, knew he couldn't get it. He's like, I'm going to go get my frag real quick. Hey, I got mine.
Just going to pad the stats tiny bit.
Exactly. Well, Beastcoast with their very first round, and I think you can really chalk it up to the respect of Oxygen's pressure. Yes, Oxygen is able to utilize that and force Beastcoast into a position where Oxygen can get the walls open and start looking for plants and doing all of these things, but they lost some very key members in some parts of the map that you really can't, specifically Attic. If Vertical ends up winning that fight, that's more than likely a completely different round there, because you have so much control over games and just a huge potential to plant, but it goes awry, and Beastcoast get their very first round off of some fantastic patience.
So like we said, Beastcoast finally into it. Now they're going to be able to start wrapping themselves over towards the other sites they've played into, which at this point is really just the basement site, because they haven't actually been able to rotate onto any of the first floor sites as of yet here. They've been trying to figure out a win on both of these, finally locking things in upstairs. Let's see if the same strategy will work to the same level of effectiveness in the basement play, where once again we're going going to see quite a bit of player power committed to the early roam game, but probably a pretty passive play in the late round there, as they've had a real amount of struggles trying to play out those extended fights. You also notice that they finally kind of ditched the delay composition here for the third attempt too. The Tachanka has been moved away, and they're just going to be relying on the smoke from Anthony now.
All right, well, very similar operator lineup to what we had on the previous defensive round, and some more used reinforcements. So more than likely setting things up over towards the west side. I believe we saw some reinforcements over in Shower, as well as just the double for Cafe, so making it a little bit more difficult for Oxygen to just get immediate control of small tower. Like a lot of offensive teams like. They really like trying to get inside of security and getting this initial hatch, and then just slowly working their way over towards Moto as they back things up with their clear. Xeno's going to be on the top floor, so Oxygen's clear, speaking of, is going to have to be quite solid to not allow him to slip through the cracks.
Quiet round so far, but Dream,
found two.
Yep, Dream's going to be able to get a nice spot there as a player crosses through the inside of the kitchen. You have a pre-placed Nitro sitting above this hatch as well to open up a quick rotate for the players upstairs if need be. Also opens up that sight line, of course, too. Surf really being tested here right now. His composition, he's going to need to keep himself very, very well composed here, and thankfully he does. Doesn't take the bait on either of the fights on the inside of Meeting, is forced to back away. Newers, though, finds a nice little pixel shot against Slash down below. Thought he would have been safe from there, but unfortunately off by just a few meters. And that's going to lead to the opening kill, finally going over towards Oxygen. Took a while to get to that point, though, as we bled out nearly half of the round before this kill against Slash was found.
I love this hammer and anvil setup from Oxygen. You have Vertical out on the white van, occupying lobby, and then so many Oxygen bodies applying pressure from the big tower side. It makes players want to try and rotate down like main stairs and through classroom and things along those lines. And oh, Vertical, I hope he hears him. I don't think Xeno's actually going to make the rotate here. I think he wants to stick around and try to continue to play out his life. And this timer, remember that hatch is open upstairs, so if he's able to play this out long enough, there's a big potential for him to just drop right into the back line of Oxygen and deal some very considerable damage.
Foxay with a nice nade, sinking in against Ferda. Things returning to normal as far as Oxygen is concerned here, as they waste quite a bit of time, of course, lining up the opening kills, but past this point, they haven't struggled. Oh no, Anthony with a potential mystery, but as well, the utility use from Sweater gives away his position, gives room for the correction. Anthony now coming in for the closeout. That most recent shotgun shell, not going to down anyone, unfortunately, against Oxygen, but the Toxic Babe will force Newers away from Anthony's position and allow him to extend this play even further. Newers, though, with no respect, swings it anyway, takes him down and leaves only Surf in the fight. He cannot maintain either. Vertical finishes things off, and Oxygen are right back on the warpath towards victory.
And Beastcoast trying to go for the swings to equalize, but Oxygen ready for it, especially Newers. If you didn't notice, he actually pushed himself through the Toxic Babe in order to get that position in construction, which is fantastic. You know, really catching the smoke player off guard there, Anthony. Completely discombobulated when he goes for that swing. Not prepared for somebody to be so close to the angle, able to take him down. So Oxygen up 4-1 here, and this offense is looking very solid so far. You know, the team as a whole playing very, very well. I love some of the clears we've been seeing, especially with Beastcoast roam games starting to come through on a regular basis. So it's just been a really, really great thing to see from OXG, especially in comparison to what we'd had in recent history.
All right, so OXG, like we said before, right back on the path at 4-1 here. Potential 5-1 also in the cards. You're concerned the Beastcoast is no longer going to be able to make a return to the second floor. Still locked away when they won it on round 4. Would have been unlocking on the next round, but of course this is the final round of the half, so they're not going to get that opportunity. It's down to the first floor instead for them in meeting rooms specifically, where they've been untested so far in this half. Same can be said about Oxygen and attacking this site, though, so we have to see how ready they are to face off once again. It's an extension from Beastcoast. It's going to be deployed heavily into the second floor. You can already see Xeno and Surf positioned up here. And you can bet that a few more players will be keen on supporting this if the moment of opportunity arises.
Okay, so Fox is going to flex over to Ace. They'll have Vertical off the line over to Sledge. Newer's going to maintain the Yana, but we've got a Capitao working its way in from Dream with some extra secondary hard breach here. I mean, past that, obviously, you do have Sweater on the Twitch, but that one's pretty self-explanatory. A little bit more drone, you know, economy. She does get 3 drones, technically speaking, with that prep phase drone, as well as the 2 Twitch drones that she has. Frag grenade out here from Newers, but it's really going to be the F2 that we're looking at on Sweater. Oxygen, at least initially, taking their time. They don't want to try and just rush into the site. Going to be able to at least get the single panel open here. Anthony won't even be able to stop it with an impact. He'll get a drone for his troubles and another impact going out, but it's actually going to be Foxay that gets taken down initially by Surf. It's a refrag, and Sweater getting 2. Newers will go down to Ferda. Anthony's downed inside a site. It's technically speaking a 2 versus 3, so we'll finally get that lit up on the board after Vertical confirms Anthony with a nade.
Verda as well as Slash now going to be the only two standing here for Beastcoast. Both pretty heavily split up from each other as well, so very much a solo game that they'll have to try and play to bring this back from the 2v3. Obviously going to be a chance for them to link up a little bit later on in the round. I think we're drifting towards that point here. Miss Slash was positioned on the inside of the site. Not going to give anything away here either, as he was waiting for the Fruit to rotate to work itself over towards the back of the main stairs. That's worked out well here now. Over towards tower, where Ferd is going to be able to maintain a position, and Oxygen don't necessarily have an easy plan to clear this one out, as you can see here. Just slowly proceeding forward. We're going to see, of course, that incendiary charge forcing out a move from Slash to go a little bit further back. Gets him, more than importantly, away from the plant position, and is now going to allow for Dream to put this down, but Ferda winning a very important fight upstairs. There's going to be a repick, and oh no! The cross just doesn't work for Vertical here. His teammate goes directly in front of the line of fire. He has to pull back, and that leaves it open now for Slash to down Dream, leaving Vertical alone with sub 10 HP in a 1v2 clutch. However, does have the case down, so he wants to. He can just play this on the timer. Just needs to scare Slash or Ferda off of that counter defuse, but they've already gone for it. They've jumped on. He's got the ace kill here, though, with the spray transfer as well. Tries to go for the drop deeper, but unfortunately doesn't catch the breach that had been made earlier on in the round. So Ferda trades it back out, and with plenty of excess time, Beastcoast will finally net a second round on the half.
The timing does not work out for Oxygen, causing a critical blunder. Dream should not have been going for that rotation right there. That's the only angle that Vertical had in order to cover the door. Too. He could have just went right, and obviously, like we can see silhouettes, right? Like they don't have any info in Z more than likely, so could have been a riskier thing. But occupying the angle of the person that's overwatching you put a plant down, probably not the best thing to do. So
it's just something they're probably going to learn when they VOD review this game.
Yeah, exactly. But it's always those little things in Rainbow Six Siege where you're like, oh man, that was stupid. Why'd I do that? Right? But hey, the good news is that not only are Oxygen looking better, but it's a 4-2 split at the half. They're going into the defensive end of Oregon. This is looking pretty good, John.
Yeah, except for a couple of blunders from Oxygen, things that looked very, very promising overall throughout the half. And like we said, if that did not end up happening, if Dream ends up going right instead of left there, very realistically would have ended up on 5-1 for that round. Just unfortunate the way things ended up playing out. We did see, of course, that very nice success from Beastcoast as well, able to slowly bring their second floor defense back, bait Oxygen into the Lion's Den, where they were finally able to shut them down with a bit more confidence. Back, I believe that was on round 3 or 4 as well. So that's where the 2 rounds come from Beastcoast. Now, of course, they have an opportunity to increase that on the attacking side, but Oxygen will be playing out their game just as aggressively as we saw Beastcoast do. You can see this as well from the operator selections. We've got the Legion coming in for Foxay, the Alibi on Sweater, the Malusi for Newers. These guys want to be mobile in the opening minutes or so of this first round here to support the timer on their basement defense.
Yeah, and meanwhile, Beastcoast literally saying, if you can do it, we can do it better, and bringing almost the exact same lineup that we saw from Oxygen in the previous round, minus the Lion, but that was obviously something Vertical was playing for the majority of the half. We just had the Sledge for that very last one, so that's the only switch up that we're going to see out of BC. This should make the clear game pretty easy when it comes to these roamers, but that doesn't mean that we can see some considerable damage done either way.
Still on the small tower clear for the most part for Beastcoast here as they continue to proceed forward. Oxygen is going to respect that, as you can see, not playing too heavily into that game. It's the second floor where Beastcoast are going to have to spend a lot more time properly clearing this out. A Sweater more than ready for the challenge, even has the pre-fire for the White Cross right there, but realize that there is probably a hunt that has been called out against him, so he's not going to stick around for it. Backs away over towards the tower stairs, but will more than likely start his descent, as we are getting close now to that minute-and-a-half mark where the team is more than likely going to be comfortable giving up these positions.
An aggressive Dream awaiting Freezer's stairs. Has a shotgun in hand. A little interesting there when that drone did roll in and you just got that free shot on there, even though the crosshair wasn't there, but that's the spread of the shotgun for you. Some of those beads able to catch that drone, but obviously that's going to give up his positioning. It's going to be swinging here from the Gemini. The shotgun will quickly dispatch that, but now he's going to have some problems because there's going to be pressure coming in from 2 ends. A frag grenade out. Foxay's really not, well, occupying the angle that he needs to be. Should have been the opposite end of that if he was trying to help Dream out at all, because Anthony can just maneuver to that side and bounce a grenade in, and that's exactly how it goes. They're going to be able to take down Dream, but Oxygen have had a pretty solid delay, I would say. You know, it sucks. It definitely sucks that they've lost Dream and the smoke to try and delay some of these different stairwells and stuff to work their way into, but with this timer, it's still definitely doable.
Indeed it is, but they need to speed things up here and now. Spam comes in. Foxay thrown off initially by the Gemini, but now going to back up just in case the flood is too much for him to deal with. Goes all the way into the hallway as well, since we still have the breach to play through a little bit deeper into the actual site. Yours as well, ready to take the challenge from inside of Laundry as well. Oxygen just sitting back at the moment, waiting for Beastcoast to make the first move, but there's hesitation from Beastcoast, even considering the fact that they have the 5v4 advantage now. Still working on opening up hatches. You guys only have 20 seconds left. You need to move through this. Thankfully, this is just a supporting hatch, I'm pretty sure, for the Laundry push, as Zeno is attempting to make a solo play here. We'll get some support from a secondary teammate, but we need to see these players move in now. If it's not going to be now, it's never going to happen. Sweater shuts down the first player, attempting to move in. Slash does find room to at least put the case down on the ground with good smoke coverage, but Oxygen still shutting it down, and they'll shut it all down as they take control of the first round of the second half.
Yeah, kind of what I thought was going to happen. Yeah, Foxy makes a blunder inside of Freezer and lets Dream die, but past that, there's still
no
not
pressure.
pushing. Yeah, there's no pressure at all. In fact, their pressure was, let's have Zeno stand on top of a dryer at 15 seconds and see if anybody swings through Freezer hallway or Freezer. That's not actual pressure. That's just you waiting for Oxygen to mess up. So don't exactly agree with that, especially after you get the leadoff pick. You really should be trying to play with that man advantage and just take it to the house, man. Take these gunfights.
Take a 1-for-1.
Yeah, exactly. Like even if you do 1-for-1, you're still in the lead because that's how that works. So it just kind of questionable there from BC, but either way, they were still able to at least make a chance or make an opportunity available to them to try and get that case down.
I did miss paying attention to this, but I wonder if like drone count got really desperate for them in those final like 30 seconds as well, and they just like didn't have proper intel. So that's what's really the only reliable strategy, was to sit back and kind of wait on their opponents to mess up, and unfortunately just didn't happen. Like I said, I didn't catch the drone count, so I don't know if that's the case, but that could at least be one possible explanation as to why we're seeing so much hesitation there from Beastcoast, if they just didn't have good intel.
Yeah, could be. I mean, past that though, they still have Lion. So if you really want to just go in kind of blind, right, just make it to where your opponents can't move.
Very, very true.
So, you know, I think you can kind of look at it through a bunch of different lenses, but obviously that's in the past, and we're in the future now. It's round 8, and not only that, but we've already started into the action phase. Sweater is going to be playing a hallmark of SAS mute players. Security with some angles up top, and more than likely be trying to play out his life. They did have those other reinforcements in there. There was 2 in there, and the single panel on the other side needed to be secured, so I don't know if Sweater's actually going to stick there, but this is definitely a place that we see quite often. And actually, it looks like he is, so just wanted to try and see if he could work his way over towards lobby and find himself a lone BC member.
So slow start to things once again for Beastcoast. This obviously is going to be a little bit of a trickier puzzle to figure out the second floor this time as well, so we somewhat expect this. Ooh, first Terror drone shot out as it goes through the window as well. It's not even going to be able to get that alibi clone, which obviously wouldn't necessarily be a great use of the Terror drones, but at least it would take down something. Beastcoast will be denied that outright. Anthony, though, getting adventurous here. This is what we need to see more of here. Oxygen are going to be expecting a very tame, very straightforward attack. Not this type of play, as Anthony creeps right up to the top of White and catches Dream on a cross back into the site.
Oh, Foxy going to deal some damage, but only on the tailcoats of Anthony. Those ankles will feel his wrath, but won't go down just yet. Foxy is starting to take some heat as well out of the frag grenades, I do believe, of the offense. A lone one in the pocket of Anthony. Another one out, and yet again, it's going to hit its mark. It won't take out Fox, though. Anthony gets a drone going. He'll be able to clear out the bunkers, but Beastcoast aren't prepared to try and push this forward just yet. Sweater's made a move as well out of security. He's now at the bottom of Freezer stairs, and this is a pretty considerable play. Could try and get himself around Anthony here. I actually think that there's a drone coming down low, and there is indeed. He's going to go for the play right now. They know where he is. He'll switch back into security. No one able to get any shots just yet, but he is flirting with death.
Yeah, Sweater more than anything lucky he didn't just get clipped off there on one of the crosses he went for, but very good timing regardless to be able to control it. And his presence is still here. The damage he's doing is now a factor as well. Zeno dropped down to about 20 HP because of that secondary peak to come in. There's the full commitment from Sweater, but he missed the second pump. Zeno trades it instead here. Has to swap over to his secondary now because he's still not safe. Has to back out of the building entirely, I'm pretty sure, to be able to get the reload done and make sure that he's going to stay alive here. But the damage now done. The player count even out. Health pools are looking pretty similar as well, with both Foxy and Zeno down to detrimental HP. This is once again going to be tough for BC coming into the final 30 seconds.
What a damn rat Sweater was in that situation there, but not able to get that last blast off onto Zeno that could have been the round decider. Instead, it's 18 seconds seconds remaining, but make it a 3 versus 1. Newers, he'll tear the head off too, and Foxay will put him in the grave. Oxygen continue their rampage.
I want to say that was from the same flank as well, came from the bottom of White Stairs there, because I don't think Newers was up grouped up with the other 2 players. So.
Newers had to wait like 10 centuries for Hopes to come over and give him a fist bump. He's like, are you coming?
Do it. Don't let me hanging. But that's going to put Oxygen up onto 6 points. Obviously, just 1 more to go as they're now on map point here. Beastcoast still down 4 rounds at this point. They need to win consecutively just to be able to take us to overtime and guarantee at least 1 point from this matchup. The odds not looking great, unfortunately, as Oxygen does have to go to a tertiary site at least, and they're going to head for meeting room as well. But Beastcoast here needs to show us something new if they want to give us at least that 3rd round, let alone 3 more after that.
Yes, indeed. And, you know, if we get any more Oregon past this moment here in the Stage 3, we need like a gents agreement where there's like 3 roamers that are just way too aggressive. Just to make it where the opening 2 minutes isn't just watching people open hatches. I think everyone would be very happy with that, but you guys would have to talk to the league and see what you can get done with that. We're going to have the Thermite thrown off of the ship here. Surf is going to instead don the Zofia, but he's going to double back down into the Therm. With some extra hard breach, and honestly wouldn't be a bad thing, especially for the site that's been selected from Oxygen, Kitchen, and Mating. Now, usually when we see this site, we are usually looking for a plant on stage right around the area that Foxay is, and that's why Thermite is such a considerable force in a situation like this, because he blows the biggest hole out of all of the hard breaches. So when you use him on a wall like stage wall, there is no longer any paneling that you have to deal with. It makes it super easy to work your way in, get that plant down, and have the supporting angles already open for your other teammates to try and use to help you stay alive while you do get that case down. So Oxygen are obviously going to be doing their best to try and prevent that from happening. It all starts with this early aggression, trying to hold big tower and things along those lines to delay as long as humanly possible.
Very, very quiet game once again as Beastcoast are worried about the potential jump outs or just aggressive moves in general we might get from Oxygen. And they're right to be as well. You guys can see that little silhouette up in T3 at the moment. Player from Oxygen going to be trying to waste out time and so far doing a pretty good job of it. A minute gone from the clock and I don't think Beastcoast have even entered the building, but that'll be far too aggressive a move from Sweater. It's not even pre-damaged on the barricade there. Has to whack it open himself, and that gives the room for a player on Beastcoast to respond to that. In the meantime, though, as we can see here, Vertical has just slid down the ladder and escaped into the basement as he realizes, yep, I've wasted enough time. I don't need to sit here anymore. So finds a moment of opportunity to escape and takes it.
I cannot believe that he made it past that window player right there. As soon as that stun went in, I was like, oh yeah, Surf's going to grab the bottom angle and it's over. He's going to come down the ladder and get shot. Nope, not at all. Instead, he skimpers off into the basement, practically off into the ether. In Beastcoast's case, is they're not going to have a single bead on his location, and they'll have to try and work their way towards the site now. And the big thing is that it's a minute and 15 seconds, and Beastcoast have spent all of this time on Big Tower. We haven't done literally anything else.
A similar problem from the previous 2 rounds as well. Beastcoast time management has left something to be desired inside of this half here, as they've really struggled to clear out the extended game from Oxygen. Oxygen knows this too, so they've doubled down, if not tripled down on it in quite a few occasions, such as what we saw towards White Stairs back on the previous round here. Final minute of play. Nitro prepped as well. This could be very poor timing for Beastcoast if they're going to try to get this hatch open. Thankfully, it looks like they back away from it. They've got their own form of explosive. That doesn't mean, of course, that Foxay is a moot point in this situation. Could still go for the hold, and then DD will. It's going to be the Gemini first up, of course, though, so he's able to counter that. That will more than likely stem the tide for the other Beastcoast players wanting to jump down there. Problem is, though, they were relying on that to get themselves in. So what's the plan from this point forward? Vert, oh no, gets caught off on an angle just barely here from the Yana coming back in on the bottom of those stairs. Another frag is found by Anthony also here. So it's a 2-to-1 trade overall, leaving Oxygen with just 2 players alive at this point due to the earlier kill they also found. Foxay and Newers. Foxay still with a very forward position, of course, so he could very much, on his own, pretty much, win this one. Ferda, though, going to be able to take out his only other teammate. That leaves Foxay alone in this position, but he's not done fighting yet. 1 down, goes for the second. Anthony wins it, however, and Beastcoast stay alive.
Yes, indeed. All from the tower position as well. They get all of those kills. Really, the only forward thing past that was getting control over Attic, but not even much was done with the Attic hatch or anything of the sort. Oxygen just kind of giving it up at the end of the day. They try and go for some bigger plays near the tail end of that round, especially for Vertical, trying to go for the flank up big tower stairs, but he's caught off guard by a prone Anthony in the stairwell. That was kind of a weird one to...
I think that's finally definitely Oxygen being hyper-aggressive with flanks finally catching up to them, and the fact that Beastcoast probably just have someone like fully committed to watching those types of angles now. Like, they're not taking any chances after what happened on the upstairs take.
Yeah, absolutely. Anthony with a pretty big sixth sense there to be able to catch him, and very well
and
done
that was a great,
them.
yeah, that was a great counter to go prone there as well and catch him just leaning out like an inch too far there. He's like, oh, I gotcha.
Yeah.
Spams in to kill him.
Exactly, exactly. You know, for every angle there is in Rainbow Six Siege, there's actually 3 because you can stand, you can crouch, and you can prone. So, yeah, there's a lot to worry about. And sometimes you're not exactly worried about somebody's elbow sticking out on a staircase. You're like, what is that? Oh, I'm dead. Wow, that was really weird. I don't know why Anthony was prone in a staircase, but whatever. Oxygen still have 3 attempts. Make it 2 attempts, really, obviously, to try and get this done in regulation. Beastcoast otherwise will force us into OT here. This offense keeps going the way that it is right now.
Big change up here for Oxygen they can immediately switch to as well. If they are being caught too heavy-handedly playing into this aggressive game, they can just cool it off, especially for a basement hold here, and just play entirely into that. A little close to the Rotero drone here. As you can see, Dream wraps around thinking he can maybe shoot it out, but that's obviously not going to be the case. It quickly deals with his deployable shield here. And it removes that angle from Oxygen when Beastcoast finally start to pressure into construction, probably about a minute or 2 from now as well. Beastcoast still have a lot of clearing to do. As you can see, the first floor is rampant with Oxygen players, 2 of them, it looks like, in fact, here. And Beastcoast have yet to set foot in the building, but still sending their drones through here. Probably have a semi-good idea as to the setup here, so just need to actually get those players in position to force them back down into the basement.
Mid-hold here from Oxygen. Numerous on the contact point here for Freezer, where we usually see things at least spark off for these basement defenses. Sweater will be occupying the attic. As of now, no BC members around the area to capitalize on either of these, though. Still trying to stick to the info to clear things out initially, and that's what's going to allow Anthony to start pushing himself through small tower and over towards security and Z. As for Oxygen, they've backed off, all except for Sweater up top. I do believe we have the potential of having one other player roaming around here, but I do believe, yes, indeed, that we have just knocked it down to the lone soul. So Sweater more than likely looking for the late flank if he can get it. If you do remember, Oxygen was going for a lot of top clears when they were clearing the building, and this is exactly why. You want to know what's going on this top floor, because a lot of roamers, especially the more dire a game gets, right, like a situation like this where Beastcoast has to worry about Oxygen just getting a single round over on them, that's when these plays can start to seep through, and you really have to worry about some big highlight moments that Sweater could potentially cause a ruckus with here in this last minute.
Ferda backing up away from the situation, starting to lean himself more towards the execute, and good timing as well. Newer is just getting caught, knocked out. The highest fragging player on Oxygen right now by a pretty big margin as well, 14 and 5 compared to the next highest teammates, both sitting at around 8-7 and 8-6 right now. Good stuff from Newers, but unfortunately, a moot point in this round is going to be taken down outright. Falls to the other 4 members of Oxygen deeper in the basement to hold off the remaining 35 seconds. And what's this? A surprise! Suddenly around the corner here, Sweater realizes he's got a little bit of resistance on his wrap back down, over peaks into the play. Surf gonna gloat about it a little bit here as he finishes off Sweater, knocks him down, and it looks like the rest of the execute is going off without too much of an issue as well. Dream still in the way though. Could cause some problems, and so will Vertical a bit deeper into the site as we enter again the final 15 seconds of play. Here we go, Dream with 1 pump, that's the case down as well. Gets clipped off from the top though. Now all the pressure shifts to Vertical. Watches for the flank first off. We'll get some good damage down onto Surf, but he'll be smart. Back away from the scenario and repeat just when it's right. He'll get down, but not fully knocked out. But he will claim the kill on Vertical, and another round to come with it. BC still wants that overtime game.
Loving the mentality of the Surf here. Just like, I'm like that. I'm like that. Get that flank shut down and played it to a T here. Just to remind you, Sweater and Surf were on the same team for a very long time. So this is not something new to Surf. He's like, oh, Sweater, you're going to roam? Oh, I'm so shocked. I wonder when you're going to flank. Oh, wait, it's a minute left. I bet you're coming. And he just goes in armory and waits for him. I don't even think that Surf was there for like over 20 seconds. No, I think he got there like 10 seconds before Sweater showed up, and he's like, oh, that's pretty funny, isn't it? Like, very well done, especially from Surf to recognize the overall situation. You know, it's a big thing to be able to identify a roam and know what you need to do, but past that, he not only got that done, but he immediately got back with his team and helped them spearhead into site and attempt to get that plant down. So he did a lot all in that singular round for them.
All right, so nicely played out here by the players on Beastcoast, refusing to give up even when the odds seem very much against their favor. And of course, correcting on the mistakes from the first go-around of these site takes as well. Nicely played by Beastcoast here. Some good adjustments to play out against Oxygen. But Oxygen are tired of that. They, of course, as you guys just probably saw there, took their tactical pause and are going to come back into this one, hopefully with a fresh take that will finally cut off Beastcoast's chances of a comeback here, as well as any points they might be able to scavenge from this match. Mind you, that's not really the focus for either team at this point. You can see that over at the top. Both these teams, unfortunately, have had an 0-5 start to the season, which leaves them both locked in 9th place. So playoff contentions are pretty much donezo in terms of making it to the major. As Jesse said, though, it's technically not 0 yet. It's going to be 0 for the team that potentially loses this in regulation. But if we go to overtime, then I'm pretty sure both teams are also potentially still in the mix as well. But just with very, very low chances, like less than 1%, I'm pretty sure is what it would be at this point.
So you're saying there's a chance?
Technically, yes. Just not a very good one.
It's not a very good one. Well, still a big chance for Oxygen to close out the game in 7-4 fashion here as we'll hop right in. Beastcoast going back to kind of what we saw inside of their first round, minus the Flores now coming in, as well as the Twitch. Everything else making quite a bit of sense for, BC. Well, they want to go for this full clear, though. It is going to be the downstairs hold, so we should see this mid-floor dealt with as, once again, Newer's back in that prime position around security and freezer stairs, waiting the arrival of Beastcoast.
Beastcoast taking it slow as always here, wanting to make sure they get a full analysis on the first floor take before proceeding forward. And it's quite obviously, once again, we've got tricks up Oxygen's sleeve. A little bit more tame, though, in terms of what they're potentially throwing out this time. Just a little bit of a poke over towards the freezer stairs as well as the back tower stairs as well. Aside from that, though, it seems like it is going to be a more standard bunker setup coming in from Oxygen this time, just trying to lay things out, and that'll be doubly so when you consider that Fox has brought the Cade in for this one to add the electrical to the hatches as well. Did we see our attackers bring a counter to that? It does not look like that is the case here, so they will need to try and get access below to open that, which more than likely means we're not going to end up seeing those open, since we don't have any secondary EMPs to account for that either.
Absolutely. First minute's going to be off the clock for Beastcoast. They've sprung two inside of Small Tower and begin working their way west to east, and that includes the outside of the building. They want to drone things out, make sure that Sweater isn't trying to sneak by as a stowaway on the top floor or anything of the sort. Beastcoast is actually going to go for the full rotation already, all the way over to construction, so Ferd is more than likely going to be getting rid of that elbow shield and looking to do some other sort of atrocities to the setup of Oxygen. Ferda's initial Flores drone will be quickly dispatched, though. It's going to make it pretty easy for Oxygen to try and pay attention to that throughout, unless obviously there's some other things going on that'll draw their vision away and he can try and sneak those drones in.
Beastcoast proceeding on schedule here. Seeing some smoke utility blocking out the access to the back stairs, so not going to be able to move themselves in from there yet, but the pressure's still going to be on for some of our front runners on Oxygen right now, specifically Newer's, having to watch out for both the construction pressure as well as the back tower stairs play. Very much a situation in which both sides of Beastcoast could end up pushing those angles and lead to him being pinched out outright, but he's been able to manage these types of scenarios before with gusto as well, so we're going to see if he can do so once again. Impact comes in from the attacker. Zofia deals with that ADS. Dream as well, still trying to aggressively lean out towards freezer stairs. So Oxygen want the fight. That's wasting a lot of time, as you can see. Beastcoast now down to 30 seconds. Full commitment from Dream to at least guarantee the 1-for-1, even amidst the Rotero drone as well. Slash marks another entry in against Sweater, so Oxygen will be weak, down to a 4v3. As the final 17 seconds are thrusted upon them, but as that time gets slower, Oxygen gains an advantage in the fact that Beastcoast can no longer drone things out. Great intel is there for Anthony, but as well, Newers leaps into it on the flank from Freezer's side, shuts down one. Fox now can finally activate to pick up a second kill, gives out the intel in the hallway, and it's a straight lineup here for Newers, all the way down with the spray control to lock it in as OXG lock out this matchup for themselves.
Oh my, what a play from Newers right there. Disgusting mechanics to shut it down at the very end inside of the 2 versus 2. Love the play off of him, and I believe Dream over there off of the single panel, who slowly just backs off and allows Newers to do exactly what he does, shut it down with that huge frag potential. What a game from Oxygen, and finally in the win column for Stage 3.
Absolutely the case. Took quite a bit of effort, but indeed, finally a win for Oxygen going on the board. Came very, very close yesterday in their match, but was unable unable to keep things together. Today, a little bit of a better showing versus Beastcoast here. Still some issues to be worked out, and very much the same thing will be said about Beastcoast here, of course, but both teams showing us a little bit of what they have to showcase overall in terms of what they brought to bear for the stage, and for Oxygen, maybe a sign that things are finally starting to turn around.
Yeah, Beastcoast definitely not happy with that loss, but I will say this, Surf does look pretty happy, especially with the way that he played today. He had a lot of
first 2 rounds.
Highlight rounds that were just disgusting. Yeah, he started to kind of pitter out near the tail end, but, you know, Oregon, it's a long map, no matter what happens. Even if it's a 7-2, it's a long map. So it makes it pretty difficult to keep your head in the game, especially when you are kind of spiraling near the tail end. But either way, a great game in between Oxygen and Beastcoast. If you want to know what was better, wind or water, well, it's got to be that good old air, baby. That's going to do it for this one, folks. We'll be back with the very next game after this break.
Well, as you can see with that win by Oxygen, Beastcoast has been eliminated here in Stage 3 from major contention. Obviously, they're still going to play out their games, and it's a great opportunity for them to get more experience with their new players, work them into the system a little bit more, reinvent Beastcoast like the players wanted to do coming into the stage, but that is that. In the meantime, Oxygen has gotten their first win of the stage, and we've got none other than Dream waiting to chat with us over in Vegas. Dream, congrats on the win today, and I gotta ask, because it's been talked about in some interviews with some of the Oxygen players already, where are the priorities right now for the squad? Is it Stage 3? Is it SI? What are the players kind of thinking about as they go into kind of the remaining weeks of the stage?
The priority right now is definitely to get into the best form we can for SI. we're just kind of looking into the future. We know we fucked up major this stage, or sorry, messed up major this stage, and yeah, we're just trying to like iron that out, fix that up going forward, and yeah, hopefully we'll be better in the future, or I know we will be.
Dream, I want to get a little more specific in that because obviously you've made some changes, it looks like, coming into this week. You seem to have moved some roles around, particularly with Sweater. It also feels like you're pushing a little bit more kind of together as a group. Can you kind of describe what the biggest things that you've changed coming into this week have been?
I think our priorities from the first 2 weeks, like we changed completely. So we moved Vert off of entry. We put him on flank watch, like that sort of flank watch flex role. And then we moved Sweater up to entry just because Sweater plays like way more aggressive and that's his like preferred role. So we put him on that. And even though we lost against TSM the other day, we did feel a lot better in that game, like more cohesion, more working together. We're like just trying to work out like those kinks of kind of being a new team a little bit and just, yeah, ironing out the mistakes and going forward, it'll be fixed.
Now with this first win under your belt, do you guys feel like you guys are going to be treading in the right direction?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I know we lost against TSM yesterday and we won today, but it does feel like we are moving in the right direction. Like the pieces of the puzzle are like fitting together, and with the role switch up and like we're being way more team oriented, it should, like the future looks bright.
Dream, I'm happy you were able to get your first win on the board, buddy. I know it took a while, but congratulations on finally getting there. I did want to ask. Hey, there it is. I wanted to ask. You started off most rounds by being in a deficit, I think, but for all but one round, Beastcoast always had opening kill. There was always like a hole that you had to dig yourselves out of, so to speak. What do you do in moments like that where it's a consistent trend? It's always them getting the opening kill. You kind of have to find a way to bounce back. How do you do that if it happens so consistently like it did today?
Well, honestly, for our team, we just like if somebody gets picked or whatever, it's fine. We just try and like isolate a player. Like you find out like where their weaknesses are. You get the man advantage, like at least even, and then you can like execute off that. And it seems to work like pretty well the past 2 days. So I mean, yeah.
All right. Well, that's about all we got for you here. Congrats on the win again today. Good luck with your matches next week, and good luck with the SI prep as well. Excited to see what Oxygen can do.
Thank you, guys.
All right, Dream from Oxygen, kind of confirming what we've heard a little bit from some of the other players, that the focus again is going to be on SI. That didn't stop them from getting the win over Beastcoast, but frankly, I think it's going to be hard to stop anyone from getting a win over Beastcoast based on what we've been seeing. The map differential kind of showed us coming into this one that Oxygen was a little bit of a step above Beastcoast, and after this map, man, the stats kind of confirm it in spades.
Yeah, I think the most disappointing thing for Beastcoast is their defenses. Like, they've played 2 Oregon games now, and they're not getting any defensive rounds. On a map like Oregon, you have to be getting your defenses, and I think if Beastcoast wants to be taken as a serious team, they need to figure out their defenses.
Yeah, Jacob, you talked about it in the interview, but only 2 opening picks from Auction that entire round, or that entire time, and it was only 1 for the vast majority of it. Dream's opening pick came in round 11, the final round that we just saw played out in that game. So for most of it, it was Beastcoast finding that entry, in particular in attack. Surf was round after round after round finding that opening pick, but then it felt like there was always a trade back. There was somebody then getting in on Oxygen and being able to retake that man advantage, or even just in the actual push. The fact that they were able to all come in together, it felt like they all like were pushing on the same page. It definitely did manage to get the best of Beastcoast, who a couple of times felt like they should have been in strong positions to like win in the execute, but then it was an over peak here, it was a misstep there, they would fall apart, and Oxygen would just take advantage of it.
Yeah, I gotta ask, like, how common do you think it is for a team to get the opening pick like 80% plus in a map and still lose it?
Your odds of winning a round on average are about 66% if you get the opening pick.
Yeah, I think
about 2/3.
The first pick is like the most important pick in the game.
Wow.
So.
Crazy. All right. Well, Beastcoast obviously with a little bit to work on. You know, it doesn't seem like opening the round strong, at least against Oxygen, was a problem. It's just kind of a matter of closing it out. It's a matter of like getting those final kills, right?
It's probably down to their confidence in their early game and actually being able to make conversions. But when you have so many rounds starting off well and then not being able to finish, I think it's a sign that you need to stay away from Oregon for the near future. I don't think it's a good opportunity to really showcase Furta's skill set and how this team is going to be working efficiently down the road. I think you're putting yourself in a hole if you play a map like like that where it's played out the same way so many times over. And if you're not following through with the same formula because that's how you play this map, then you're doing it wrong. So don't go to Oregon again in the future. I think you need for these last 3 games to showcase a totally different skill set.
That's right. Well, let's showcase some plays from that last map. We're going to start with the very beginning. We're going to start with round number 1. Oxygen pushing in. We'll see how it went.
This is one of those rounds that Oxygen, again, they were all kind of pushing from one side. They don't have advantage, okay? Surf got to work early. He got that opening pick. Watch Anthony on the Tachanka. You've got both Smoke and Tachanka on this defense. There's no universe that Oxygen should be getting a plant down here. They use a lot of their utility early, right? Slash has used the majority of his, but Anthony still has some. And what's going to end up happening? They've got full control of this backside. Again, one-dimensional push from Oxygen. Newer sets himself up outside of pillars. Watch out for him. Anthony, what's he gonna do here? He's still got 3 fire grenades he can use to stop this plant. He's in a really good spot. Plant goes down, and Anthony, MGS, swings. What? What?
I would just like to point out Ferda and Zeno in no man's land.
True?
Zeno was going up the main stairs and decided to come back while Plant was going down. I don't know, it just seems like a lot of disconnect on the defense for Beastcoast.
It's not even that like Chanka there is a bad pick either. I feel like you've got area denial, you just have to use it in the same way. It's like if you're out of smoke like Babes or Slash is dead, cool. If you're out of a nitro cell, cool. You've got 3 different opportunities at that point if utility still remains on the board to use it, so use it. That's really the only critique there.
Yeah, there you go. Well, you saw Newers getting the triple kill in that round too. Obviously, he popped off a little bit today. Round number 11. The next one we're going to look at was another kind of instance of that. We looked at the first round. Now let's look at how Oxygen closed it out.
So this is the round that we just saw to end the game, and the first thing to notice, of course, the Electric Claws being brought, they put them on the 2 hatches, E-Box and Freezer. No EMPs. I think one of the first rounds that Beastcoast didn't bring any secondary EMPs. It was Ferda. He switches off of it. OXG switch off with a perfect opportunity. Immediately makes it a difficult push, right? Dream and Freezer has the absolute freedom to play right up close on the stairs. He doesn't have to fall back. There's no pressure on him. He's going to get at least 1 kill here. It does get traded, so shout out to Anthony for hitting that shot. I know we were criticizing him earlier, but he did pop off in terms of the frags this game. But still, it's a difficult position. Somehow, Beast Coast manage a man advantage, and they just need to get in and plant this defuse kit onto the ground. But Penguin, it doesn't exactly go to plan here.
No, I mean, they find out Vertical is in Chala, they get that pick, but then they decided they're going to flood deep, which is an okay call, but Surf's way too far ahead to actually make this flood work. Slash and Ferda are a little bit too far behind. And ultimately, again, it's a disconnect with Beast Coast. I think the name of the game for Beast Coast right now is they're disconnected on their attacks and their defenses, more so on the defense.
I mean, we're back at a point where we're looking at Beast Coast statistically where they're in one of the worst shapes they've been in since they were the 9th place team in the league for all of last year. We're back in 2021 shades of Beast Coast. Even if it might be a slightly different play style, you've got like the entire team minus Anthony is completely restructured. I'm sorry, man, but we got to like harken back to when in 2021 they were making a lot of the same mistakes and they were down here statistically on both attack and defense. It might just be the same fish in a different ocean, dude.
I mean, we'll see. It's you talk about players playing for their job sometimes in other sports. I feel like with Beast Coast, you got to kind of keep that in mind a little bit, even though they just brought 2 new people in. If it's not working out, if it continues like that, you got to look at off-season changes. We'll keep an eye on Beast Coast as the games continue throughout the stage. But for now, we look ahead to our 4th match of the day. It's going to be Sonics versus Parabellum. Should be a fun one. Do not miss it. NAL returns in just a few.